Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back to the Create With Us podcast, where we take you behind the screens. My name is Brett Barley. Thank you for joining us as always. I'm here with my guy, Jeff Venn. Jeff, what's going on, dude?
Happy Friday to you, Brett. I'm pretty excited about this guest we have coming up for various reasons that we're going to get into.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. Happy Friday to you as well. Today on the podcast, we have a super awesome dude that we're so excited to talk about. We were just talking about it. We might go a little long today because we're really excited to talk to this guy. We have Michael Woodward in today from the JumbleThink podcast. So the JumbleThink podcast was started by Michael in 2017 with the idea of helping dreamers, makers, innovators, and influencers dream big and to refine their ideas. So let's get right into it. Let's get Michael on in here. We're so excited to talk about him. Michael, what's going on, dude? How's it going?
Not much. So excited to be with you all. It's been fun to get to know what you guys are doing and connect with Jeff over the last couple of weeks, and excited about the conversation. Love the pup in the back there too.
I know. I tried to kick him out and he snuck back in the door. I'm watching him on my screen like, don't misbehave. Don't embarrass me in front of my friends. But he's going to do it. He's going to do it. Well, we're so excited to have you, Michael. Thanks so much for joining us today. You are a man of many talents, and we're so excited to talk about it. So if you're cool with it, let's hop right in and talk a little bit about what you do. Michael, tell us a little bit about your hustle. What exactly is it that you do? Where you're from? Tell the people a little bit about you.
Yeah, I'm, of course, Michael Woodward. I am from Central Pennsylvania, spent most of my adult life in California in the world of technology. And before that, I was a pastor. And now I spend a lot of my time podcasting, talking to, like you said, dreamers, makers, innovators, and influencers, all about their journey of turning those dreams and ideas into reality. It's a lot of fun to do that. And along the way, I get to talk to cool people like you guys and hear your stories and get to share your stories. It's just a lot of fun. So I'm the classic entrepreneur. I can't just do one thing. I'm kind of all over the place.
Heck yeah, that's awesome, man. So how did you get into this career path as far as what you do and working with people and helping people out like you do? Tell us a little bit about your history. How did you kind of get into it?
Yeah, as a kid, I remember being curious, entrepreneurial, having ideas and concepts from a young age. I can remember sitting in the dentist chair, asking the dentist what all the different tools were, what he was doing, why he was doing it, and just that curiosity. And so entrepreneurship, I think, was a part of who I am from a young age. But along the way, I ended up in the world of church ministry as a pastor, overseeing a youth group and leading worship there. Loved it. It was a lot of fun. And when the recession hit in 2008, the first of many recessions of my life, I had to make a pivot because the church just didn't have the resources to pay me. So I ended up working for a friend of mine in the world of web. Actually, they started out as a traditional old school media company doing print and graphic design, and then ended up transitioning into the world of web. He wanted to focus on philanthropic endeavors. So myself and another guy took over the business. That guy got a job at Apple doing development. So I bought out his half of the business and ended up in the web space. So it's just been kind of a journey of accidents that have been enjoyable, and to learn a lot and have a lot of fun along the way, discovering new things, always learning, always growing, always evolving, and ending up in the world of podcasting along the way too.
Very cool. Very cool. Happy accidents, as my man Bob Ross would say.
Yeah.
Do you have a certain type of customer? Are you in like a certain type of field that you work with, or do you kind of do a little bit of everything, or different types of things?
Yeah, so it's a little complicated because there are so many different things that I work with. From the web standpoint, I'm kind of moving away from that space in a lot of ways, but I've been doing it since 2009. I have worked with organizations like Stanford and the California Commission for Community Colleges, for numbers of Chamber of Commerces, worked with mom and pop restaurants and attorneys. And then we've worked with big corporations like GE, GM, and also doing work with a company called CrowdStrike for several years along the way too. So that kind of plurality of different kinds of clients, not just small business, not just large business, but everything in between. And I've been very blessed with the opportunities that we've had. Along the way, we built out a big team of 12 people. Now it's just back to me again and working with contractors. And as we close this down, scaling it well so our clients are set up well for the future with other partners and helping them along that journey. So it has been wide. It has been education, technology, small business. It's been a lot.
Very cool. Very cool. So let's dig in a little bit, Michael. I'll let Jeff take over for a second here. Let's talk a little bit about how you help businesses grow specifically. Jeff, what you got for him?
Yeah, so we're going to dive into 2 topics, and I thought this would be really relevant for our audience. The first one is messaging and storytelling and the importance of that on the front end of your website. So you've had a lot of experience with like corporate and the big brands, and then of course with small businesses too. And then I'd love to get into the micro experiments. So tell us about the small business and corporate and the messaging on the websites.
Right. I think that for so long as a child, as a young adult, the narrative of product placement and everything was around selling a product, selling a message, selling a service. And we're having this resurgence of story and how we craft what we do. There's this concept of being aware of how your product, service, and message impacts culture. Beyond that, also the environment and how it impacts different people groups. And so there's a much more conscious effort to understand narrative and how we promote, position ourselves. And so for large corporations, that pivot's been happening for a while in incorporating narrative into how they position, what they promote, how they tell their story. And small businesses have been trying to catch up, I think, for the last 10 years to a place where they're not just trying to survive, but actually position themselves well. And I think the big difference between corporations and small businesses is that there are resources in big corporations to take the time to process these things, whereas small businesses kind of seem to not get the narrative portion as well. And so they're just out there trying to hustle and grind and do. And so that's the big difference, the amount of resources behind what they can do with what they're trying to tell, and also the amount of time that they're willing to step back and slow down the process to get to a well-crafted story.
Yeah, give me an example for a small business, because I get what you're saying. They just promote products and services. Could we take a chiropractor or something like that? In the past, they just put up what they do versus now it's maybe more of a narrative about who owns it or the type of care of the place. Like, do any examples come to mind?
Yeah, absolutely. I've worked with a couple chiropractors, and there's different kinds of chiropractors. And so the story that they tell would be different. I can think of a friend of mine. He's a chiropractor. He does upper cervical chiropractor services, which is just the portion in your neck. I think it's like 4 vertebrae. He, as a college student, was a competitive cyclist. So he was out doing road races and riding at a very high level, both in Europe and then in the US. And he had a really bad accident, hurt himself really, really bad. And so his positioning is not only about selling a product, it's about his story. So he comes in and he would say something like this, I didn't know much about chiropractic. I was healthy. I ate well. I did all the things I'm supposed to. I exercised. I rode my bike. I was competitive cycling. So I was always trying to be tuned in the best performance of my life for that next ride. But somewhere along the way, I was in this race and something happened. A whole bunch of a cyclist, let's say, in front of me crashed and I crashed. Now, for the next couple of years, I really struggled with pain, chronic pain. I couldn't get up really well. I was slow to move. I couldn't exercise. I was always in pain. And then a friend of mine said, have you tried going to a chiropractor? And I hadn't. So I tried it. They worked on just a couple of vertebrae in my neck. And all of a sudden, I felt like my energy came back. I felt like I was able to move. I was able to ride cycles again. I was able to get my health under control. And then I started looking at how I was eating again and looking at nutrition and how that goes together with chiropractic. And so now I'm building this practice because I see not only for myself how it's impacted my life, I want others to have that health. That mom for 20 years who has just always been tired, who has always had pain in their back, who maybe they walk with a limp or something. I might be able to help with that. Or maybe there's a person that's having weight loss issues and it's really an alignment of the body that they can't move because they're in pain. And so I help them get that body in alignment so they can get out into nature and do all the things that they've wanted to do again and get that energy back. And so he might go on to say, it's personal. I want you to be able to have the health that I've been able to find. And so the reason I do this is to help people find the wholeness and the health and the fullness of life, again, that they may have lost because of an accident. And so then they would maybe go on and try to identify those. You may have been in an accident, and since then you just haven't been right, and you haven't been able to figure out what it is. And you've gone to doctors, and they've done x-rays, they've done body scans, they've told you, well, there's nothing really wrong that we can fix. There's nothing broken. We can put you on painkillers. Well, that doesn't seem to fix the problem. And now you're depressed, and I want to help you get fullness. And so you can start telling those stories about how their clients are finding that health, how they're finding fullness of motion, how they're finding a place where they feel like they were when they're in their 20s, but they didn't know what was wrong. And that combination of getting the back fixed as a chiropractor, they're able to help people find that wholeness, and then they're able to help them get good nutrition to find the fullness of their life again. So that might be an example with a chiropractor of how they could bring story. It's both the story, their story, and why they do it, but it's also the story of how their clients' lives are changed. And, you know, one of the big things I say is we have to personify the story, because if people feel like they're a part of the story, if they see themselves in the story, they're more likely going to be able to buy or want to buy. They're going to be able to see them and their problem solved. You know, when I'm pitching someone and anything I do, all I really want to communicate is I can solve their problem, and story is the best way to do that. Big businesses do it because they have huge marketing firms that go and craft a specific narrative and story, and we see it on TV, we see it in film, we see it product placement. Small businesses can do the exact same thing just by finding the story that resonates with their audience, that solves their problem, and really help them.
That's beautiful. That was a pretty compelling pitch there. I actually wanted to go attend. My body started aching. Go to that chiropractor. But how would it have been before? Because I see a lot of generic, just templated sites where it'd be like, hey, we do chiropractic and we help this, this, and this, and like the 3 boxes, and contact us. Is that kind of what we're contrasting it to? I mean, that's an extreme contrast, but that's kind of where it comes from, right?
Yeah. So in the past, what you would see is maybe the marketing would be something like we rack and crack them. You know, we get you up there, we pop you. If your neck's a little stiff, we can help you get your neck back. If you're feeling a little tenderness, you know, and a lot of chiropractors would sell it as you got to come back and come back and come back, and we're going to adjust. And for my specific friend that I'm talking about here, their whole thing is about getting you freedom so that you can get out the door and not have to come back to them on a regular basis. And so, before they may have just said, hey, if you're stiff, we can help you. But by incorporating the story of like his story and other story, now we can actually personify it. It's not just about the service. It's about a change of lifestyle. It's about a change of hope. It's about a change of mindset that allows the person to have the fullness of life. So before it was about, well, we can make your neck feel better. Now it's like, we can make your life feel better because this is how it impacts the rest of your life. And so it's a richer, fuller, more robust story that they're telling by using storytelling instead of pitching a service that we do. Yeah, we're a chiropractor. You might know what we do. We can crack your neck and make you feel better. It just doesn't sell the same way.
Yeah, and that's cool. And it's also, those services are assumed from a chiropractic, right? The minute we see it. So I love the story around it. Let's transition to a second thing that interests me, the idea of micro experiments. Where were you going with that?
Yeah. Our passion, whether it's from the web stuff we've done, or really our passion, my passion, and especially the podcasting space, it's helping people move from the mundane life. So many people settle for something. They're like, you know, I have a dream, I have an idea, but I'm playing it safe. I went to college, I got the career. Maybe one day when I retire, I can go travel the way I want. Maybe one day when everything's safe and I have all the money saved up, I can start that business I want. And so many people are discontent in the life that they have because it's scary. And one of the reasons it's scary is if I come and say, my dream is to go start the next big car manufacturing company. I want to be the next Elon Musk, you know, that's impossible to eat. That's impossible to process through and say, how do I get there? And so a lot of people stall at the beginning stages because the dream or idea that they're trying to reach to is just overwhelming. So micro experiments are a mechanism in which you can walk through small little changes and experiments, making it fun. It's like scientific method to entrepreneurship, where you can quickly and rapidly test things, try things, and evolve the idea and dream you have towards the end goal. There's an ancient, I want to say Hebrew word that's acharit, which means to think of the end. And that's awesome. We want to think of the end, but the way we get to the end once we see the end picture is by small incremental changes. So I created this little 5-step method that's based on the scientific method for entrepreneurs on how you can take a concept and just iterate smallly. And this can apply to like, hey, I'm a business and I want to market. How do I market well? You can apply micro experiments to quick, small experiments where you get data back, you get results back, and then you move forward with knowledge instead of just guessing.
That's really cool. And just talking about transitions or trying things in small, we want to dive into your entrepreneurial journey a little bit and maybe use micro experiments to get from, the digital and web stuff to the podcasting. Brett, you want to take it from here?
Yeah.
Go ahead, sorry.
I'm sorry, Michael. I'm cutting you off, man.
Go for it. It's your show. Cut away.
Yeah. I was super excited to talk about your entrepreneurial journey. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, we had to talk a little bit to you before we went on air here, and we know that you're big in the entrepreneurial world and helping people in that essence. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that? What's been kind of the most rewarding part of your entrepreneurial journey so far?
So for me personally, it allows me to have the freedom to create the life that I want to live. So what do I want my family life to look like? Well, through being entrepreneurship, I set the standards for how my day looks. It gives me the freedom to do the things that I value. And so I'm building things I believe in and that I want to incorporate into my life versus if I was in a career that didn't resonate with me. And there's nothing wrong with career. I know that there are teachers out there who are doing exactly what they're supposed to do. And if that's your career, go for it. But there are a lot of people who aren't. And so for me, being able to have the freedom to create and paint the picture of the life I want, that's, I think, the beauty of an entrepreneurial journey. It is hard. Don't get me wrong. It's not like hey, there's the dream. Great. I have $1 billion in the bank. Don't have that. Yeah. It is a harder journey in some ways, I think. But it is a much more rewarding one.
So, I mean, on that topic, on the challenges of it, kind of the flip side of this, what would you say has been the biggest challenge of your entrepreneurial journey so far? I know you mentioned that, so obviously, it's not all sunshine and rainbows all the time, you know what I mean? And things come up. So if you had to say, kind of the opposite of what's been most rewarding, what has kind of been the biggest challenge or something that you've had to kind of learn and adapt, as you go?
Yeah, I think the two hardest challenges for me personally and for the businesses I've built, one is staffing. Staffing is one of the hardest things I think that most people overlook in their entrepreneurial journey because, we hear this solopreneur concept of like, hey, I'm going to do it on my own and I've got my hustle and grind and I can make this work. Well, there comes a point in which that just becomes not scalable and you become your own cog. And so I've had big teams, I've had small teams, I've had just with myself. And I can tell you that the journey is always better when there's others that are a part of it. And so for me, finding the right people, hiring the right people is one of the things I challenge because I want to help everyone. I want to believe in everyone. And so there have been hires that I've had that have just been the wrong hire for our culture or hiring someone that turns out that they're in the wrong role. And so it gets a really difficult to perfect that. I know that there are people who are just stellar at it. That's one of the biggest challenges for me. And the other one is simply, we might have several projects in the pipeline, but the cash flow thing is always interesting because money doesn't always hit when it's due or when you want it to be due. Sometimes a project takes longer. Sometimes a client takes longer to pay. And so balancing those two things is in my entrepreneurial journey, the two hardest areas.
Yeah, I always joke that I have two bosses, right? As the owner of Create Studios, and one is the sales forecast, right? What's coming in, and two is the cash flow. And they're impersonal, right? They're not people. They're numbers on a spreadsheet, backed, of course, by real projects and people, but for sure on that. I wanted to dive into this transition you're in, though. You've done the digital marketing, the website thing for a while. But you've had pretty massive success with this podcast, and that's the direction you're moving in permanently. How many episodes are you in on your JumbleThink podcast?
I think as of like this week, 374, 375, somewhere in there. Not quite sure what the number is off the top of my head, but it's 374 or 5.
In the goal there, obviously you did the web design long enough to have enough of this transitioning out. What is the goal with the podcast? Because I saw like retreats on there. I don't know if there's coaching and mentoring. Where is that going?
Yeah. So the podcast, my hope with the podcast is it would spark people to dream again. One of the things I hear over and over again when I talk to leading entrepreneurs, actors, athletes, all the different kinds of guests that we have on the show, time and time again, I feel like I'm doing what I'm created to be. And that's our passion. That's my passion with the show, is to help spark that in people who are listening. I love when we get an email back and somebody will say, hey, I've listened to your show and now I started my own thing. Maybe it's a podcast for the, I can think of a children's podcaster who started their show because of our show. I can think of entrepreneurs who are now on that journey because they heard a story of an entrepreneur or heard my story along the way. And so the reason I started podcasting, originally I wanted to do a lot more video, but I had all the equipment to do podcasting, and I wanted to start conversations around the whole concept of dreams and ideas and how people can make that a lifestyle. And so in that journey, it was just, that was the easiest kind of low hanging fruit. And then it just grew and grew and grew. And now we're actually at the point where we're incorporating video much more into the show and doing some unique things with that. From there, the stack of other services is we want to launch something called Idea Camps. And Idea Camps, we've done some virtual ones. We're working on some larger events once COVID's done, where we just get people together. And it's kind of like summer camp for adults, if you will. And so basically, it's a place to come together, have a lot of fun, explore ideas, explore the concept of idea formation, innovation strategies, marketing, branding, storytelling. And so we have some virtual day camps that are all around a specific thing. So if you're a small business owner, you're starting something, you might want a website. So we do a class around what you need to know about websites. We do a class around how to craft your story, how to craft narrative. We do a class on the technology behind podcasting. And so we have these very technical classes that are very short. They're introductions, so that a person who maybe they're not going to build their website, maybe they are, maybe they're going to use a tool like Squarespace or Wix, but walking them through the process of finding the right team, the right people to work with, pointing them to people like you guys and what you're doing, and connecting them with killer designers and developers that can help them when that's appropriate. And then we have the longer day camps, which are less technical and more philosophical. How do you process an idea? How do you position yourself? How do you process? It's kind of like longer day masterminds and stuff. And then we have Idea Summit, which we're hoping to launch as soon as COVID's done. It's something that we were working on launching right prior to COVID. And so trying to get to this place where we have these longer summits, which are the bigger, summer camps. You're getting away from life. You're allowing yourself time to reset. You're hearing from thought leaders. You're hearing from people who are doing what these people want to do. And so they're giving you the blueprint for the way forward. So those are some of the things that we're doing. I'm also doing some coaching and mentoring around podcasting directly with podcasters, and also sitting down with people and just talking on how to set up their business correctly and form a concept that really works well.
That's really cool. By chance, did you use micro experiments to start the podcast, or was it just a pretty simple, like, I'm just going to go and do it and take a little time weekly to get it done?
I didn't use micro experiments for that, but in the idea camps, I have used it. So the way that I've used it is that I'll give you an example. So there's 5 steps to what I call the dreamer's guide to micro experiments. And so step 1 is you have to form a question or a goal. So my question is, are people interested in learning about X topic? Okay. So how do I learn that? Well, I could go build out an event, create and promote a webinar, and hope that people show up. Or I could just get some data back. So one of the easiest things I can do is I can form a question. Do people want to learn about the power of story in their business? Okay, that's the question. What is the goal? I want to find out if people are interested. So I've set my goal. That's step 1. Step 2 is I'm going to set a time limit. Okay, I want to find out within a week if there's a market for this conversation. Are there people interested in going to an event around learning how to craft story, a virtual event? And I want to know how many and what's the conversion on that. So then I need to set up and run the experiment. In this case, what I might do is I might set up a Facebook ad campaign that markets a specific message. You have a small business, you want to connect with your audience better, you need to know the power of story. Come to our one-day story seminar to learn about how you can craft the story for your business. Now, I have that Facebook ad going on. It's targeted to specific people, interests, demographics that we want to reach. I run that for a week. And then I want that campaign to see what the conversion is. So how many people saw it? How many clicked on that? So then it might kick out to a Facebook page or a website. So now it lands on the website. And so now I want to see how many people would actually take this next step. We're launching Idea Camp's Story One-Day Summit. Here's where you can sign up to keep in the loop of when it goes live. Put a little sign up for like MailChimp or any numbers of email newsletter tools, get them into a list. And now what I can see is how many people saw it, how many people clicked on it, said, I'm a little interested, and how many people signed up. So now I can go back and stop and reflect, which is the next step in the process. I can look and say, okay, so 1,000 people saw the ad, 100 people clicked on it, one person signed up. Well, that might not be the greatest idea then. Now on the flip side, 1,000 people saw it, 500 people clicked on the link. 100 people signed up for that email newsletter to stay in the loop. Now I've just run an experiment that says, is the idea viable? Is there an audience for it? And can we convert when we actually launch that specific course? And so that's how we've even processed some of the idea camps on which topics we're picking. You can apply that to an idea you have. Like, let's say I want to start a winery or a root beer company or whatever it is. You could start running little experiments that land to a one-page splash page and just see what the conversion is through that to see if there's an audience. So that's like an audience test. And so that's a great way that you can use that to establish if you're going in the right direction on an idea or concept. And that's one of the tools that we've used even with processing idea camps and what curriculums that we're going to develop, what ideas we're going to share, what classes we're going to offer. And then of course, with micro experiments, because they're small, you rinse and repeat. So at the end, you start a new experiment, you just keep that journey going, and you want these short. They could be a day, a 2-day, a 5-day, a month, but you're not going to go much longer than that just to see and iterate and try. So if it would have failed, I might say, well, there's not an audience for storytelling. Is there an audience for understanding business fundamentals? And I can run it again and redo that. And so that's an example of how I've incorporated micro experiments into like idea camps.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing. And I love how instead of like building the course out, like building all the webinar decks and things like that, you're actually using Facebook's large audience and a small budget, right? Probably for some hundreds of dollars or way less, you can test that thing out before you build it out.
Yeah.
That is very cool. Micro experiments. I love we've dived into detail on that. Brett, where are we going next?
All right, Michael, it's time, man. Are you ready for this? It's rapid fire time.
I love rapid fire.
Shooting from the hip here. Cool. So let's talk a little bit about, let's talk a little bit more about Michael, the person. Tell us about a hobby of yours, how you stay energized outside of work when you're not working. What do you like to do in your spare time?
Yeah, I need to get better at this. I spend a lot of time with my family, which I love. That's great. We love to travel, which has been a little bit limited this year just because of, last year because of the world we live in. Beyond that, I need to get back into some of the things that I used to do, like running. I used to be a long distance runner, and I did that a lot during when our agency was at the largest amount. I was running anywhere between 9 and 15 miles 3 times a week. So yeah, I love that. And that helps so much. I need to get better at rest, of course, but beyond that, I love music. So I play guitar. I want to get better at it. I've been playing it since I was 14. So I've been playing it for a long time, and I would love to just continue doing that. So I love picking up the guitar. I have several sitting over here, and during the day, I'll pick up the guitar, play the guitar, and just kind of use it as a way to reset once I've had my eyes on a computer for, a couple hours, just get my eyes refreshed and that kind of thing. So that's one of the things I love doing. And it's such an easy thing 'cause it's right there. And those are a couple ways I do it.
Yeah, it's a great way to recharge the battery. We're gonna have to start a little podcast band here. We got a couple of musicians together. That's awesome. So what is one piece of advice that you would give your younger self right now?
Yeah. I think one of the things I would say is just be consistent at managing your health. And I'm going to be 40 in July, so I'm getting old. And so, I have seasons where I'm really good at staying in shape and eating well. And I have seasons where I completely eat wrong and I don't do anything except watch TV. And I think the consistency of taking care of my health would be the thing that I would tell my younger self, because if you don't have good health, it's really hard to do the rest, especially on an entrepreneurial journey. You just get kind of stuck there.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. You were talking about watching TV. Let's see. What have you been watching anything? Give us a recommendation. Anything we should check out?
I've been revisiting a show that I love, Chuck, which had Zachary Levi and Yvonne Stravinsky and a bunch, Adam Baldwin, a bunch of other people. It was out in, I think, 2008 through 2014 maybe, or something like that. Maybe it was a little bit earlier. We've been just rewatching that. And then beyond that, just watching stuff like Magnum on CBS and NCIS, New Orleans, and a bunch of shows like that. But Chuck is what we've been going back to. It's just kind of fun. It's a safe place. We love the show. It's a fun show.
Yeah, oh my God, my mom would love you, man. She's super into the CSI and all that stuff. So that's good stuff, man. Okay, so off the top of the dome, what's one thing you're deeply grateful for right now? The first thing that comes to mind. Let's hear it, Michael.
Oh, just my family. They're incredible. I have 2 young daughters, 7 and 4. My wife's phenomenal. And it's just so much fun to do life with them. And so I'm so grateful for them and being a part of their lives, and they're a part of my life. It's a lot of fun.
That's great, man. That's good stuff. Well, Michael, thank you so much for joining us today. Before we let you go, tell the people what's the best way to engage with you. How can they find the podcast? We're gonna throw some stuff in the links, but tell them real quick how to find out more about you and what all you do.
Yeah, best way, jumblethink.com. It's super simple. You'll find the links to Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Pandora. You'll find information and links to idea camps. It's all there. And drop me an email. My email goes directly to me. I have no handlers, mike@jumblethink.com. I'd love to hear from people and hear what they're thinking about their dreams and ideas and what they're chasing.
Awesome. Very good stuff, man. Like I said, we'll throw some links and stuff in the description. So everybody check it out. Hit up Michael. Michael, thank you so much for joining us today, man. You are awesome. We had a blast with you. We can't thank you enough for joining us.
Well, thank you so much. It's been an honor, and it's great to get to know you guys. And I look forward to spending more time with you guys in the future.
Likewise, Michael. Thanks very much.
Yeah, thanks, Michael.
Yeah, everybody, thanks so much for checking out the episode. We'll see you again next week for episode 7. On the Create With Us podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. Everyone, happy Friday. Enjoy your weekend. We will see you later.